How's it going, Reef Keepers? Hope everybody's having a great weekend. I have a rare opportunity to make a couple of videos today because my kid's grandmother's in town and has agreed to take her. My wife had some stuff she wanted to go do with her friends, and so I was left to do tank maintenance, and I rushed through it so that I could get into some videos and actually shoot some stuff, for one of the first opportunities like that I've had this summer. And in thinking about what to cover, I have noticed that a lot of people have been asking me about my ReeFi Uno 2.0 Pros. And I recalled kind of before summer began and my video production dropped off just because of my circumstances that, I really meant to go more in depth into those. So I'm not going to go like in depth on some of the things that I will eventually go in depth on regarding them. But I do want to give just kind of a, hey, I've had these on the tank for like, some weeks now, and here's kind of my review. My review having sat with them for a while. So I'll give you a look at those three units. Remember, I've got Quanta Pro bars, two 3-foot Quanta Pro bars on either side of them. So they kind of obscure the front view of them, but that's okay. And part of what I love about the ReeFi Uno 2.0 Pro is that it is an unassuming design, right? Like when you're looking dead on at the tank, I mean, of course you're going to see the LEDs a little bit, but the the appearance of the box, it just kind of blends. It just kind of blends with the rest of the setup. Another thing I love about them is that if you look on the bottom, and I guess you can't really, well, you can kind of tell. So the actual LED diodes sit in like a little concave well. So there's little wells that are like this, little reverse wells, I don't know what you want to call them, but the diode sits up in that well. So I sit on the couch right next to the tank when I watch TV because I want to sit next to the tank, be able to look over and watch my fish eat when the auto feeders roll or whatever. And when I had the XR15s on my tank before these refis, I was like blinded by those things. I mean, in Ecotech's pursuit to get more spread out the sides of that light, they really compromised the ability to like comfortably sit in the same space as the tank for long periods of time. And my wife sits on the other side of the room and so she can lay out on the other couch, and she hated the Radions. She was like, these are the most annoying thing. She wanted me to reduce my schedule so that the lights like went off when we got back from work. And I was like, when am I going to see my tank if I do that? So it was a constant like strain. And I understand I could have got shades for them, but I just kind of think that the design of a light should take into account the fact that humans shouldn't have light jetting out the side of each one of these units and blasting you in the eyeball. And these totally take that into effect, which is absolutely fantastic. Also, great quality glass. This is a glass shield on the bottom, and you can quite easily pop the bolts out of this thing and swap out a new reflector. So it's called a Reef, R-E-E, Reflector. And the reflector will change your spread. So I've got, and by the way, you get a set of reflectors in the box so that you can swap out the 90-degree reflector that it comes with and go with a 120-degree reflector the second you take it out of the box if you want to, and that's exactly what I did. So I've got, the reflectors that I've got on here are giving me the weakest downward force available. I think there might be a 160-degree reflector, maybe. But out of the box, I have the weakest intensity coming down onto the corals that I possibly can, because if I had kept those 90-degree reflectors on there, I mean, I have these with 120-degree spread. I have them running at 20% intensity, and in combination with the Quanta Pros, I'm getting like 450 to 500 par along the top of the scape. So think about that. If I had the 90-degree reflectors on there, how intense would me running these lights at 20% intensity be? Like, what kind of par would I see from that? probably high enough that I would be really bothering corals like an Elegance coral that prefers a little bit lower light. You know what I mean? So in order to get like good stratification of par level throughout the various elevations in the tank, I immediately swapped in the 120-degree reflectors. But that goes to show you how powerful these lights are. And remember, I did a test head-to-head before I sold my last XR15 to show the difference in par intensity. And my gosh, I mean, these absolutely blow the Radion XR15 out of the water. And by the way, when you compare the amount of power that both of these are capable of outputting, these blow the XR30 out of the water. So super impressive light from that standpoint. Super overbuilt heat channels, by the way, despite giving off plenty of intensity, even at just 20% of its capability, the fans basically never turn on. I mean, like, I don't hear them. I can go up to the side of it and put my hand up beside the light, and I can feel sometimes on like a warmer day when we kind of want to ease off the air conditioning to save some money, I'll go up there and I can feel a little bit of heat getting blown out. Never ever hear these things, right? So the heat management is phenomenal on them. Also, they're incredibly easy to mount and unmount because in the back, I mean, let me zoom real quick. You see that right there where the cord goes in? Excuse the spider webs. Obviously, I need to dust up here. So where the cord goes in on these units, you can just unplug it. On a Radion, heck, on so many other lights in this industry, all of them that I've used, the cord is hardwired in. So if you want to take it off of a mount like this one, what you're going to have to do is unwind that cord all the way down and around, and it's going to be a horrible project that sucks up half a day of your life. Trying to get all these lights off, slide them off one at a time if you had a problem with one on a far end, whatever. These, you literally just go ahead and pop the cord out, and you can remove each unit individually as you need, and then put them back into place if they need servicing or if you need to clean them, or do you just want to reposition them, whatever. Incredible design, right? I would say that, let's talk about the screen. So they have an OLED screen on the front of each of them. I don't think you can touch it, but it is nice because when you're connecting it to Wi-Fi, because the programming runs through your browser, and you can do it on your phone quite easily. That's what I haven't even done it on a computer. I use my phone for all the programming of these. It does display it displays like time, fan speed, if the fan's on, and it displays the IP address that you need to plug into your browser. So, you know, it's not, I turn the screens off. You can turn them on and off. I just turn them off, but you could really theoretically get like a heat readout and stuff like that, and an intensity readout and that sort of thing if you wanted to all the time, just so you could glance at it while you're up near your tank and check that everything's working as you want it to, which is cool. Like, I have no problem with that design feature, and it just kind of disappears when you turn off the screen, so it's not a big deal. I will say this, while I think that the scheduling software is quite good, I think that the way the scheduling must be done is confusing. So Daniel, the gentleman who, you know, owns and operates ReeFi and designed these things, he's clearly a genius, right? Like, these lights are, for the value that you're getting them at and their capability, they're unbelievable. And they have a 3-year warranty, so he's very confident in his product. That's 3 times the warranty you're going to get with a Radion. However, the one quirk I have found that I do consider difficult, even though I figured it out, is the actual like schedule programming of the lights. And it almost reminds me of like Daniel as Steve Wozniak in the Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak pair that founded Apple, right? Steve Wozniak was a bona fide genius who actually built the products, you know, that they were able to put to market. But Steve Jobs kind of weighed in on like the human touches, like the interface and stuff like that. And I feel like Daniel's, to my knowledge, is like almost a one-man band. I mean, he does a ton of this work himself. I'm sure he did this programming himself. And so my advice to him with the scheduling, and I'll send him a dedicated video kind of showing this, like mapping it out on paper. But the scheduling's difficult because what you kind of have to do is you pick a starting point, and then instead of like setting the next point on your schedule and the software automatically adjusting to ramp up or ramp down to that point, you have to go to the next point and then basically think backwards. So you have to like think about this backwards, about the span of time that it takes to get from the new point you just plotted back to the first point or the point before it, and then plug that, make this calculation for the time duration between them. It's hard to explain. It's very not intuitive, I think, for the average person, but I think Daniel probably found it to be intuitive for his brilliant brain. You see what I'm saying? Like, for his brilliant mind, it worked. And then for me, who's just like average Joe, I was like, whoa, like what's going on here? So I actually asked Telegram about it, and Telegram's answer was, basically I got mine to work, and I don't really know exactly all how I got it to work, but once it was working, I just left it alone. So I really delved into how it works. And Daniel, I will send you a separate video and just say, hey, you can take it or leave it, I do have a suggestion, and it is that we should be auto-ramping from just the software should just calculate and auto-ramp us up or down depending on what intensity and what point we set, right? Just take into account the time of the new point and the intensity that the user puts into that point, and auto-ramp it from the previous point, whether we're going ramp up or ramp down. It should just calculate that auto-ramp and just do it. That would be, I think that would cut down on a lot of people being hesitant about these lights, because I think the reason that a lot of people do hesitate on these lights is that they look at Ecotech and they're like, ooh, look at the app though. The app with its, special graph, and, it just auto ramps me from point to point. I don't want to think about this. I just want to plug this in and just, have it work, and it's like, it's not that much harder to do the ReeFi at all, but I think users look at the browser interface and they go, how does the scheduling work? And then they try to figure it out for a split second and they can't, and they go, I'm just going to go with a light that does this automatically for me. So I think if that one sticking point were not in the way of a lot of common users, tons more people would buy this light. I think that like little things like software scare a lot of people. So, okay, let's look at the corals though. As you can see, despite the Duncans, I mean, they're coming back out today. Despite the Duncans being dramatic about a Kalkwasser scheduling shift, Elegance, super happy, despite the intensity of the lights, which, by the way, Daniel, great guy that he is, sent me a direct message on Instagram and was like, hey, I'm worried about your Elegance because they don't like that much light, and my lights are strong. And so, by the way, amazing customer service. So awesome of him to say that. But Daniel, your lights with 120-degree reflectors on them, it's doing great. The Elegance is loving these things. It's absolutely loving them. So, like I said, the elevation and the stratification of that those PAR readings, due to the elevation, with the 120-degree reflectors, it works great. Absolutely great. So nobody should be scared about that, about like an LPS that's down low getting too blasted. Just don't go overboard with your intensity on a light, right? I'm seeing great growth on my SPS. I mean, these are new. You guys know from, if you watch my channel, these are corals from TSA that I recently got. This guy here, starting to base out. You can see it right there. I'll zoom on it. See that? Got that going very well. This one's starting to show growth. This one right here is starting to show growth. It's actually starting to branch a little bit on the tip. My one remaining acro that did not get annihilated by seed shrimp is loving them, doing great. Let's see here. Showing growth on this guy right here. It's starting to branch out at the top. You can see there's a little lump where it's branching. Down here, these guys are actually, these are my highest growth SPS frags right here. They've been doing great, and you can see the polyp extension on them. They're furry, they're happy. Actually, this is probably the highest growth right here. And you can see how happy that one is. That one has not quite doubled in size since I got it, but it's very happy. It is very much expanding. So, and you can see how happy everything else is, with the exception of my Duncans, right? And with the exception of these acans that get destroyed by my Foxface, which is awesome. Thanks, Foxface. Everything else is thrilled. So the tank's healthy. Everything looks good. I run all my, I think I mentioned, I run all my color channels at 100% on these lights. And I think that the appearance, when the Quanta Pro bars turn off in the evening, this is the only time this has ever happened because my wife tolerates my reef keeping hobby. She does not, she supports it through her neutrality. Does that make sense? I'm sure some of you understand that statement. She supports me through neutrality, but the first night I had these ReeFis on the tank and the Quanta Pros turned off, and there was this just, like, it's so hard to describe to the naked human eye what ReeFi 2.0 Pros look like with all color channels maxed. But when the Quantas turned off and it was just that color appearance from the ReeFis with all those channels maxed, my wife literally saw the Quantas go off, her eyes flicked up, she saw the tank illuminated just by the 3 ReeFis, and she went, wow. And that's the only time that's ever happened. I was like, yes! So, yeah, again, she couldn't stand the Radions. They blasted her right in the retina all day, and anytime she was in the room. These, she's like, game over when those Quantas go off in the evening, and there's this, like, almost like, I don't know, like purplish glow. She's like, it's a mild purple glow. My wife's like, that is my favorite thing. And I have literally caught her staring at the tank when those Quantas go off at the end of the day. I like this crispy combination of the ReeFis and the Quantas. But if you just wanted to run ReeFis and you wanted to go all color channels, which a lot of people seem to be kind of trying that out now, trust me, there's really not that much light. You're not going to get that appearance. I don't know what you would replicate it with. I certainly don't think I could have replicated that appearance with my Radions. It would have been very difficult to do. So anyway, I know this was long-winded. I'm going on like 20 minutes here, so I'm going to wrap it up. But guys, yeah, I have not a qualm about these lights, with the exception of that little kind of awkward scheduling, sticking point. But it's something that you can work through and learn, and I will help anyone learn how to do it and share my schedule with anybody who reaches out to me on Instagram. Please do it. I'm always available to help with that or any other gear issue. And if I don't know it, I'm not going to BS you. I'm not afraid to say, I don't know. Let's reach out to somebody who does. But when it comes to the scheduling on these lights, I darn well know how to do it. I figured it out. So reach out if you need it. But guys, for $480, everything that you get in that package, plus a 3-year warranty, my message is, if you're between that and a Radion or an AI product or whatever, just stop and get these. The value crushes the alternatives. Have a good one, guys.